everyone, and welcome back to the channel and to this. For those of you on stream, this map will look very familiar as we have been doing Dorwinion campaign, but as some of you may know, I think I did a YouTube post about it. I decided to do, and I will just put this into clarification, I'm recording this the week that I have taken off of streams to get some other stuff done, but I've been doing little bits and bobs, just progressing this campaign through a little bit more, just so we don't end up in the sort of situation of it just being a complete grind against Dol Guldur and Mordor specifically, but also Khand, because that can get very repetitive and very dulling to watch, because it can get just as dulling to try and take on. I remember watching the a few videos that Arakir Galadurathan did when he was still doing videos on Divide and Conquer, and he just constantly referred about the Mordor slog, and it is a real slog. So I decided to do a bit more, and as you also know, there have been some other armies implemented. They have been just to spice things up a little bit, and I am working on one last one. Again, it's using sort of console commandy stuff and that. But I'm going to treat this final one as the literal final one. This is the major gasp. This is the call all to arms and things, and the sort of real last stand type style army they do. So it's going to be mid-elite force, and it's going to be a mix. I am going to chuck in some of the units that you would get if you picked the human option as well, just for a bit of variety and a bit of fun. But I decided that we will put this video together as basically a catch-up on what's pretty much happened since, because yes, there's been some progress on my part, but there's also been a few other developments in there which I didn't predict. Or at least you could see them coming, and I mentioned about them, but I just wasn't thinking it was going to happen that quickly. So we're going to go faction by faction and just have an overview of how they're looking and stuff, and then we will and then we'll maybe have a look at the faction rankings, and then we'll wrap up, and yeah, that will be the video today. So it's going to be a pretty baseline one. It's going to be a lot of looking at this map. I did take some screenshots of one of the sieges I did, so when it gets down to that point, I will throw up some other images of that, because it wasn't the most exciting of battles, there wasn't, but it was still a very sort of brutal one, and yeah, just a bit of visualization. But anyway, we're starting in the northwest, so we're going to be starting with the lovely dwarfs of the Blue Mountains. So, looking at them currently, they're still holding Fahan Gathol. They're holding Garth Heligoth, and Ered Luin capital is now Guhuzanar. They lost Thorin's Halls a while back to the High Elves and have not been able to recover it. I'm pretty sure their faction leader is still alive though. Nar is there? He's still alive. There hasn't been any sort of notification about. Oh, they also hold. Okay, let's just go over the territories they hold at the moment. They hold one of the ones they start with. They hold Guhuzanar. They hold Perthair Loon. They hold Garth Heligoth. So they've still got a decent power base around Ered Luin, at least the northern section. Darim. I don't think they have any more than that though. They do have but if we expand out this way, they hold Feuerost and they hold Barketta. So they've got an interesting sort of layout here. They've got some southern holdings that still haven't been breached. They've taken the halls of Everdeen, the hills of Everdeen, kind of surrounding Ostgelon a little bit there. So yeah, they're for a faction that, and in this campaign they accepted the rings, so they've just gone against everyone. And the fact that they've gone against everyone and they're still holding their own to this extent is a testament to how good of a faction they are. And then we're going to have to sort of do the High Elves, Bree and Dunedain all together because their territories get so mixed in. So it's like the factions of Eriador at the moment. Just zoom in the map to give you guys a better showing. Bree are doing very well for themselves. They hold Mythland, which the elves lost to the dwarves and then the dwarves lost to Bree. They control the Undertowers. They've gone as far south as Dorwinion. So they have expanded out quite nicely and have a lot of wealthy provinces as well. Like Busradum can be quite wealthy. Dorwinion gives access to the sea. The High Elves hold Forlond and Harlond, and Thorrent Halls is now their capital, which is quite interesting because this is a campaign where the elves have a capital in a mountain. They're still doing alright in the west. Losing Mythland probably hurt them a fair bit, but they're not down and out in the west. The Dunedain, on the other hand, have really started to look like they've been struggling recently. Ostgelon he's got a massive garrison in there. But it is kind of surrounded. Anuminas is holding alright, but they've got that one which I can never pronounce, so I'm not even going to try. But then you look beyond that and they're already hitting the border with Angmar there. The literal borderlands are controlled by Angmar. And then, yeah, Angmar took Fornost, and Agendour is right there in the thick of it as well, so they're not going to be taking that back anytime soon. Bree are trying to assist, but yeah. And the fact that there's also barrows there. And if the barrows still work in the way I remember, that means they'll be able to get barrow whites, which will not help. Yeah, Angmar have had a pretty solid campaign, but just sticking with the Dunedain for the moment. So the Dunedain hold... They hold 1, 2, 3. They hold 3 territories in, like, Old Arnor. They still hold Weathertop by some miracle, and they've got Gandalf the White, which I did not actually realise.
I would fight for your people as if they were my own, friend.
I did not realise Gandalf the White was now about. Yeah, they hold the Weather Hills, they hold their capital, Fenestrunen, and that. They've got a couple of territories down here. Like, they have Tharbad. They've got Metraith, so they are very much all over the place at the moment. Which is making it... Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they lost Anuminas and Ostgelon just because the fact that you've got Ered Luin coming from one way, you've got Angmar coming from the other. So it wouldn't be too surprising to see them lose those territories but maintain their southern ones. And I'll get onto that moment when we come to the faction after Angmar. Angmar, on the other hand, are holding pretty firmly. They control Mount Graham, they control Barkaleg, I say they're holding quite firm, but there is a potential chance that this could be changing pretty soon. And that is because Erebor have been crossing over into the west. They've been crossing in the entrance between the two. They haven't really gone after Litash though, which is a bit of a shock. But it's like they've crossed over, but then they don't quite know what to do because they're passing through and not really. They are at war with Angmar, so there is the odd skirmish, but it's not too much. But obviously, having dwarves coming through your flank is not something that you're going to necessarily ignore. Considering those dwarfs also now hold Mount Gundabad, I do think Angmar were sieging it for a bit but got beaten back. But now, to wrap up the Eriador situation, let us look at the High Elves and the Goblins. We'll go for the Goblins first, and to be perfectly frank, the Goblins are getting bullied. They are really badly getting bullied. Goblin Town had Erebor on the east and Khazad-dûm on the west, almost sieging it together. So yeah, it just got surrounded by angry dwarves. The faction leaders there, they do still hold Camath Bryn, but Camath... I'll need to check. I'm pretty sure they're only down to 2 territories though. They've got Camath Bryn and they've got Zagkala. I don't think they actually have anything else, which is quite a shock really, because yeah, the goblins are going to most likely get taken down. And then, I mean, I would know about the High Elves, but Rivendell is still standing and Eregion is still standing, but not much to really report there. Khazad-dûm have flippin' exploded, and I am going to cover them next because that's going to immediately lead us to the into the sort of Enedwaith area. They've largely pinned Zagkala and they've got a massive army there. They've got Anon Enarod and they've got Brunost. They obviously hold both sides of Moria. But then there's another element to talk about with this. And so we're going to move on to Dunland. Oh, wait a minute. There is no Dunland. The dwarves of Khazad-dûm destroyed Dunland. And I don't think I have ever actually said this before this Dorwinion campaign. I seriously felt sorry for Dunland in this one. They got smacked about royally by the goblins early on. Enedwaith have been pressuring them on and off consistently. And then the dwarfs just walked in and took out Dunlorak and Byrig. And it's just like, oh. So, Khazad-dûm hold Dunlorak, Byrig, Moria, Anon Enarod, and Brunost. The one downside to them holding Brunost and Anon Enarod is they've kind of messed up the High Elves a little bit. The High Elves can't actually get to each other, which is a little bit of a problem. If I had the finances too, I could try and buy the regions, although that would probably not go down well. So, Dunland are gone. The goblins are on their last legs, meaning that in terms of evil factions, unless Angmar decide to randomly ally with Ered Luin, Angmar are going to be entirely isolated in the north from any sort of support. And I have to admit, just pausing on Khazad-dûm for now, because this is a campaign where I've been playing Dorwinion. Dorwinion have pretty much nothing to do with the dwarves in terms of like roster. They can't get any dwarven units or things. It's human or elves, and I picked the elven choice. And the dwarves have just exploded. I don't know. I've never seen the dwarves do so well in a campaign. I've seen Khazad Dûm normally do quite alright, but Erebor normally gets knocked out between being sandwiched between Gundabad and Rune. But I think because of the factor I took Rune out, that freed Erebor and Dale up to face down Gundabad. Or Erebor. Erebor basically had a 1 versus 1 against Gundabad for ages. I mean, the Vale of Anduin were there and helping, and then Angmar, but yeah. If there's two factions that this campaign, I know the Anduin Vale got wiped out and Gondor got wiped out, but if there's really 2 factions that this campaign really has not gone well for, it's Dunland and Gundabad. And one of them normally just walks over everything in my campaign, so it's just luck of the dice in some cases. But now we will wrap up the sort of Eriad or Minhiriath area by looking at Enedwaith. Enedwaith, well, I'll have a quick look at the diplomacy because I'm pretty sure I'm correct about this. Yes, I am. Enedwaith have no enemies to their north. Like, Enedwaith's entire focus now is, I think, solely against Isengard. I'll just have a look. The goblins are fighting Isengard. Enedwaith... Oh no, Enedwaith are fighting the goblins, but the goblins can't even get to them, so... The Enedwaith, they hold most things around the river. And I wish I could remember the name of this river. Argon, Bile, Barad-Vin, Siduri, Londair, Bragost, Alkford, Helrot, and then Dunherd. And then, sorry about some of the pronunciations. But then we are moving into the... I watch a lot of Great Book of Grudges videos, and in a lot of them when he's been covering factions and stuff like that, he's been referring to things as like the Lustria Bowl or the Southland Bowl or things like that. This is like the Gap of Rohan Bowl. You've got Enedwaith fighting against Isengard, you've got Mordor here, you've got Rohan in the mix as well. It's a... And I'll get into something else in a minute as well. And if we look at the diplomacy here, Mordor are fighting Isengard. Isengard are fighting Enedwaith and Rohan as well as Mordor. Enedwaith have no allies and are fighting them. And if we go to Rohan, Rohan's allies are Lothlorien, me, and Doamroth. And they're not allied or fighting Enedwaith. So you've got 2 factions who are neutral. No, so you've got 2 human factions who are neutral, and then 2 orc factions that are fighting both the human factions and each other. And yeah, and just look at the layout of these things. Like Enedwaith probably have the simplest border in all of this, and then Mordor have Londangrand and Karas. Isengard? That's a new one. Isengard hold Bregnas. Oh, Mordor also hold Gind. Rohan hold Durwarth. Mordor hold Foldberg. Then Rohan hold Helm's Deep, although it looks like it may fall soon. They hold Ginner. They hold the Fangorn camp. They hold Edoras. I'm trying to help them with one of the armies that I set up that's currently sieging Onodrith. Although that army's now drawn the attention of Captain Gorgle when there's this guy as well coming down, so that army may not be long for this world. Saruman is up here and still some... This is the other amazing thing. Isengard, Enedwaith, and Rohan all still have their original faction leaders. Saruman, Tremak, and Theoden are all still alive. And if you just look down at the minimap in the left, you can see the situation Rohan's in. It's just sandwiched. And yeah, this army, like, the initial plan for this army was, okay, maybe we'll go and help the elves or something, or hit Dol Guldur from the other flank. This army's mission literally now is just try to help keep Rohan alive. So yeah, that's this is the most fascinating part of this campaign, I think, just because the sheer chaos in all of it. And then we'll divert south before we look to the east and the north. We can just glance over Mordor and their domination of the fiefdoms. But then we've got something interesting to look down at. There is still a bastion. There is still a bastion of good.
Well met there, friends.
Dol Amroth, in all of this, is still standing strong. Well, I'm not sure about strong, but they're still standing. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4 armies around here that have just... And truth be told, I don't know how many orc armies they've repulsed now, but I think it's probably more than most of Gondor managed to do. Like, they are just holding the line over and over and over again, and the orcs are still just pouring forces at them, and... And then you've got Gobel Tolfalas here, which... I think Gobel Tolfalas as being an inadvertent lifeline for Dol Amroth. I think they are consistently supplying each other. So, yeah, this is one of the really absurd parts about this campaign. All of Gondor fell, most of Rohan's fallen, and Dol Amroth is still standing. Okay. And... yeah, I just... It completely amazes me that they're able to do this. That they're holding so firmly. I want to send a spy down there. I think that's going to be a task. Try to get a spy down here to watch what's going on. Because there's still so many orc forces, but... There is another thing that I do want to admit about this, which is also kind of causing me some personal concern. I have not actually seen any of the Nazgul. I know the script got changed for them in version 5, but I assume like they're being governors and stuff like that, but I've really only run into orc generals with the exception of Kamal, but that's because Kamal's still with the Dol Guldur banner at the moment. As are the other couple of Nazgul that he gets, like Lagarin and that. But yeah, this is just wondrous, I think. But then we move into the mess of Horondor and Near Harad. So, we'll start with how the army started. I moved my army that I built down here down to take Barad Harn. I took Barad Harn and I gave it to the elves. And I even gave them a tiny garrison as well. The elves then went and lost it to Harad. So now, because of me, Harad are now at war with the High Elves. So yeah. Then you got Tirathoros, which I took, and insert the screenshots now for that. No, it wasn't that one, so never mind that. I gave that to the Ardenium because the Ardenium are still allied to me and still not actually allied to Mordor. And then I've got a little mercenary force here that I was going to send to try and seize that fort. But then if we move down, there's nothing really to report here. That's weird. The Ordenheim don't really know what to do, but yes, that is one new development. The ring made its way from Dol Guldur down to Harad. And hang on, let me just check. Tir Ethred. I renamed Tir Ethred to the Bastion because this is going to sort of be the kind of base of operations I can have. Obviously, Mordor can unfortunately get armies in through Harad, which is going to be a bit of a pest, but the Ordenheim are there. I fought off Khand, and yeah, insert the screenshots here, because yeah, the army did get a bit battered and bruised in that. But they are doing their part. They are trying to hold, and we can then cycle through. So we will then just cycle through Khand. I have been absolutely determined to try and drag the Ardenheim into this fight, so I've got some sort of ally in the south, aside from Dol Amroth. I did take Darsgorum, and then instead of doing my plan of selling it to Khan, because I knew that may end up backfiring, I gave it to the Ardenheim instead. So the Ardenheim, and I did move a couple of armies over, so it wasn't just completely on its own and stuff and rebel war things. So the Ardenheim are now a bit of trickery and basis in blocking Mordor and cutting this passageway off for them. Mordor can still attack me, and they can still actively attack me. It's just I wanted to spice things up. So, because I love playing Dorwinion, and I didn't want this campaign to turn into just a grind down mess. So, yeah, I did a few changes again to change it up. But then we're into my territory. Mataram, Enmada. Yep, still holding a vast amount of territory. Although, to be perfectly honest, yes, Varfest is under attack again. Dorthalu came under attack by a massive Dol Guldur army. Or I say massive, it was almost 2 full stack. And they managed to fend it off. So, props to them. I say almost 2 full stacks, that's an overstatement. It wasn't that high, but they still managed to successfully fend it off. But now we're into some difficult situations against Dol Guldur. And I think this is actually a case where I've gone in and actually underestimated the amount of spam that Dol Guldur can command. I had to move this army back because they're now caught, but I had to put them on the bridge to protect Lagarth. But Southis is under siege. Dale had large forces, but the forces... I don't know if it's because of how the poison arrows affect auto-resolve, but Dol Guldur just walked through the armies pretty much by the looks of things. So now I've got an army set up here. Hopefully can try and ambush one of the Nazgul. It may work, it may not. That's the other army that I spawned at the Iron Hills. So they're marching their way down. Finally having been able to cross the river. I did sort of underestimate how far away that was. Yeah, Dol Guldur though, like they've been able to pierce into here, and they now hold Torfillin. They've breached the Elven Kingdom. They still hold Baelon's Halls, Leodholt, Dwinberg, Austin Guile, Roscabel, Dol Guldur, Dorlingvar, Agnod Aeon, Dorn Nahak, that Elven one, Dandalad. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Mordor took Lim here. Lin here? Lim here? No, Lin here's down south. That's Lim here. They also hold Fenholm. So yeah, Dol Guldur are still pretty massive at the moment. I also think in the Fall of Taorfilin, Legolas was slain. So both Thranduil and Legolas are gone, which is not great. Dale are still being Dale. They're doing their capital is entirely safe. That's the big thing, but their territories are locked in this vicious just border skirmish against Dol Guldur consistently. I'm hoping that if I'm able to properly muster up the strength, I can try and push back against some of this. Right. If Burst Southis can hold and all of that. Because the other thing is, if I take Dor Lingvar, I have a straight shot at Dol Guldur. And I've got this other army coming in that can hopefully breach Tuster and take that out, which the plan is take that out and then give it to Dale. Try and keep Dol Guldur contained to the forest. And I can't remember. I don't... Are they at war with Erebor yet? No, they are not. They're fighting Khazad-dûm, Dale, Rohan, me, and both the Wood Elves. But they're not fighting Erebor at the moment. But then... I'm pretty sure this is final. We're coming on to Erebor. And Erebor hold the Iron Hill territories, the Iron Hills and those west of it. They hold just a large stretch of the north until you get to the northern Vale of Anduin with Scatter's Gap. And then you can start heading down south until you get to Fenholm. Erebor have done very, very well. And I would argue that they are probably also one of the wealthiest factions now, considering how many mountain territories they control and the fact that Gundabad, Danes Halls, Erebor, they're all pretty wealthy, if I remember. Goblin Town as well. So, yeah, just the sheer amount of trade that's coming out of that, just, yeah. So the dwarves are doing well. But that brings us down to, last but not least, Lothlorien. And I don't think I really need to explain the situation Lorien's in. You've got Dol Guldur army, you've got Dol Guldur armies, Elven armies, Khazad-dûm are helping out here and there. It's... I mean, thing is, if I had reversed it, it's almost like I had a decision to make. If I hadn't taken Fangorn's camp at Fangorn camp and started moving south, I wouldn't have been able to distract Mordor. I could have moved north and helped Lorien out here and kept them in the fight and then hit Dol Guldur in the back, and maybe that would have been the smarter choice. I mean, this army is still in pretty alright condition, so I could move them up and hit Rockburg and start advancing through there if I wanted to, and considering this army is behind me, I might actually do that. Because the thing is that I'm not taking these territories and keeping them, except for the one in near Harad. I'm taking these territories and then trying to restore the faction that was there, pretty much. But I have a feeling that if they are going to stand a chance, I am going to have to contend with those armies. So it might be a case of seize Odadrith and then hold against them if they decide to attack. And if they don't, then hightail the army up north to try and retake Rockburg. And then decide, do we go after Dol Guldur or do we go after Lim here? I would say probably limb here to give it back to the elves and probably secure this part, but you never know, the elves might go in and actually retake it, especially with Cousin Dum helping them out, because with the exception of Dol Guldur, do Cousin Dum actually have any enemies at the moment? Why did I look at Ered Luin for that? The goblins, but the goblins are almost a if the goblins lose Zagkala, the goblins are a spent force. So, I mean, if they do lose it, then their territory is pretty much sealed off by now Erebor, the High Elves, and the Dunedain. So, and if we really look at what they have, they've got two sort of half armies. They've got a full stack nearly, and then an extra tiny army there. So all hope on Cousin Dum to see if they can take the goblins. Because, yeah. We could really use Erebor in this fight, but if Erebor are going to actually keep Angmar occupied, that's another sort of bonus. But the other reason why trying to help out here is going to work is because hopefully that could lead to more time for Isengard to face off against Mordor if Isengard would stop going after Enedwaith. Which I don't know whether that will happen or not. But we will have a final look at the faction rankings for this. So that's what all factions would look like for the overall ranking. Now we go for the living ones, so that takes out the Vale of Anduin, Gundabad, Dunland, Gondor, and Rune. So Mordor are clearly the top, obviously. And then everyone else is just mixed in. There are a couple of others up there. Dol Guldur is one of them, and I'm going to guess the other is, yeah, Erebor. I'm lower down. But then if we switch to top 5... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm about 6th. Khazad-dûm have just edged above me. Then Erebor are there. Who's the other one? Harad? Harad. Okay. So it's the evil factions and then the dwarves. Or the dwarves who have remained good. And then we just change it across. Go back to living factions. Switch over to military. I'm getting a bit better, but again, if we look at the top 5, I have a feeling we're going to run into the same numbers, aren't we? Yeah, I'm lower. Then you got Erebor. You don't actually have Khazad-dûm on this list. You've got Harad, you've got Dol Guldur, and then you've got the Ardenayam. So if we go back to top 5 and switch to production, mine has gone downhill, very much so, but you also have to consider that's because I threw in the console commands, and obviously making those new armies costs money, so that's obviously why mine's gone downhill like that. Angmar have clambered up there. Enedwaith are up there. Bree are up there. Dol Guldur are actually up there as well. And Khazad-dûm. So we've actually got a top 5 when Mordor are not in it. Which is pretty impressive. Territorial ranking. Bree are in there. Now that's one where I'm second. And I will also say that before I even put those other armies in and started taking those territories, I was already second. So territory is something I have done very well in, but Dorwinion do get a little bit of an advantage in that anyway, because you can expand in, you can secure a fair amount of Rovanian if you're quick, you can take out runes, so you do have the ability of spreading quite well there. Erebor just nudge above Dol Guldur by the looks of things. Okay, and don't need to look at the financial population. Okay. Wait, am I actually... Oh, wait, no, that's meant to be top 5. But, yeah. And then if we look at the win conditions quickly, it's the year 3022. I've lost 59 battles. I've won 201. I need 30 regions. I currently hold 23. So if we keep that in mind, if I was to hypothetically take the rest of Mordor, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, taking the rest of Mordor, now I've sold Dazgorum to the Ardenheim, would put us spot on 30. Which is interesting, whereas if we go off to Khand for that, we've got to take Sturluster Khand, Kizilkurm, Amzu Khand, Oibarami. We have to pretty much take every single Khandish settlement remaining to be able to do that. If we took all but one Haradrim settlement, we'd be able to do it as well. If we managed to liberate some of Gondor, we'd get closer. I also, with this new army that I've been building, this sort of last stand army, I wanted a particular mission for them, and I decided to throw it into a wheel decide of, will it attack Dol Guldur, will it attack the Black Gate, will it advance into Mordor, will it claim Minas Morgul, will it go after Minas Tirith, or will it go after Caer Andros? And the wheel decided on Caer Andros, so... which could be an amusing situation to be in, if the army even gets there, because I'm not going to teleport that army just there. They will march out like the others have had to. But, yeah, so simple kind of video today, but I just wanted to show you guys what you've might have missed from me doing some of this off screen. But when I say like Dunland got destroyed, the first bit, I think like the first couple of end turns I did off screen, Dunland got destroyed. So it was just like that, and it's like, oh, okay. It was one of those watching a pot never boils or something like that. So it was interesting, and yeah, so. I haven't finished making that army yet, but you can sort of see I've already given them some of the regent units. But I will toggle the Fog of War off for the next bit. There will be a few more developments because I am going to do a couple more bits of this off screen in my own time. Not too much. I think most of the focus will probably be around the Rohan area and Dol Guldur mainly. So the southern half and actual Dorwinion proper is not maybe going to get too much attention in that. But that's not... There we go. Didn't do it for a second. And whilst we're just on Divide and Conquer stuff, I have seen some of the work they're doing on version 6, including updates to Daily and Elite, and they look awesome in my mind. So I like the Lake Town armor, but it's not elite. And so much of like the daily and elite armor is still the exact same as it was in traditional Third Age. It's like, eh. So I am going to exit off of this now, and I am going to, before I bid you all adieu, I am just going to say the Ko-fi point is up there. If you want to tip or support the channel in any sort of way, you can pick up the ebooks on there. You can also pick up any of the books, Soul of the Gem, Code of Chivalry. Right now only the first book of the Avalas trilogy. I still need to put the other two up there, but you can also get them on the PayHip store, and both the link to the PayHip site and store as well as the Ko-fi page will be in the video description, as they always are. The link to the Twitch will be in there. I don't think I'll put the Facebook or the Instagram links, as they tend to be more book and dyspraxia focus and centric more than the streams, but I will chuck in the TikTok link as well. And yeah, until the next time, I shall say to you all, welcome to the Kingdom of Avalas and the world of Fellowmind books, and I hope you all have a good time. Thank you all for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed. And if you would like to see some similar content to this one, you can click there. Or if you would like to change around and have an explore of some of the other content, then you can check out the link below, which will be to a playlist. And if you would like to check out the content on other pages or socials, or if you would like to explore some of the other elements in detail, or pick up a book or whatever, or come and chat to me on Twitch when I'm alive, then down there. And as you can see, it has a list of what to expect on each of those platforms. And until next time, welcome to the Kingdom of Avalas, the world of Fellowmind books. Please do like, please do subscribe, and if you want to, pop out a comment.